Hi, I'm Renée Walker, a mindset mentor, speaker, and lover of all things spiritual. I believe that at our core, we are all spiritually wired for love, peace, success, and abundance. Here on the podcast, we're diving into mindset, wellness, and business, but always through a spiritual lens. Let's just say we're going deep, but we're keeping it light. So let's elevate your life from the inside out, one conversation at a time. Welcome to Spiritually Wired. Hello and welcome to Spiritually Wired. I'm so happy to be with you today, and I'm excited to dive into this episode because I wanted to share with you 5 mindset shifts that have really made a big difference in my life. And so I'm sharing these mindset shifts with you as an invitation for you to consider them and maybe even consider prioritizing them this year. One of the questions that I really get asked a lot is, how do I feel different now compared to before when I first started out on my spiritual journey? You know, what are the tangible changes that I've seen in my life from my meditation practice, my spiritual practice? And I always find it a really difficult question to answer because so much of it, of course, is internal and it can be quite challenging to explain. But if I were to sum it up, I would say that it comes down to this, and that is that I've stepped into really being a conscious creator of my life. So let me sort of break that down and explain that a bit more. Before I was on my spiritual journey, I was mostly in a place where I felt like life was happening to me. And so my role was just to react in the best way that I could to whatever came my way. And if I look back now, I can see that it did not feel very empowering because it felt so sort of like out of my control. And of course, there's still some of that happening today. However, I feel more grounded in the knowing that I actually do have the power to create my life and to choose how I feel. I can't create what's happening. I can't control what's happening around me, but I have the power to control, to choose how I respond to life. And that realization has really brought me a tremendous sense of ease and calm. And it certainly has been a practice that has evolved over time. And it's funny because actually recently we were out for dinner with our 21-year-old daughter, and that's exactly what she pointed out to me. I don't know what happened where I would have maybe normally just been upset. And she's like, you know, Mom, that's the biggest shift that I've seen in you, is that you used to react to all of these things before. And I'm sure what she really meant was maybe freak out because I did have a tendency to do that before. But she really sort of like has noticed the difference, being that now I am more steady. I have more calm within the chaos happening around me. Now, let me be clear. I am far from perfect. I definitely still have my moments, but it's this more regulated state that has felt like the biggest, most tangible shift. And of course, how you are also impacts all of the people that are close to you in your life. So as a result of me showing up in this more calm, centered state, it has allowed me to show up for my family and for my clients and for my friends and the people around me in a more calm, steady way as well. Okay, so let's dive into these mindset shifts. And I actually want to sort of add the word spiritual mindset shifts, because there is a spiritual element to them. But these are the shifts that I've found have created a really sort of a big impact, a big difference in my life. The first shift has been learning to pause, which is really about this responding versus reacting place, which is, something that I just shared, or I just touched on. So this has been one of the biggest game changers for sure. And it's all about really creating space between life happening and your reaction to it. And the reality is that most people don't even see this as possible. They live in a reactive state, which, is how I used to live as well. But the thing is that we can get so caught up in reacting to life circumstances, and that means that we're basically living on autopilot, right? And we're allowing for our stress, we're allowing for our emotions, we're allowing for our nervous system to take over, to really run our lives. And so really starting to embrace a mindfulness practice, a meditation practice, a stillness practice allows you to become more aware of what is happening, more aware of your reactions, and you begin to understand that in that pause is the power that you have to be that conscious creator, to be intentional with how you choose to respond. You recognize in that pause that, okay, you can't control the circumstances around you, but you have the power to control how you respond to them. It reminds me of this beautiful, one of my favorite quotes by Viktor Frankl. He says, between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So again, this is the game-changing realization that we cannot stop life from happening. We don't want to stop life from happening. That is why we're here, to experience the ups and the downs. We can't control the curveballs. We rarely see them coming either. But it really is about cultivating the space, the ability to pause, and to choose our response in those moments. That is really where we find our growth, our freedom, and also our peace. There's something fascinating, which is the fact that we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts in a day. So your mind is going from thought to thought to thought to thought. So there's a lot of mental noise. There's a lot of mental activity. But if you think about it, if you have 60,000 thoughts and they're all sort of like different thoughts, there is a pause. There is a moment in between each thought. You may not notice it, but it is there. And so just knowing that there's a pause, when you start to bring awareness to that pause in between your thoughts, that's when you start to cultivate the pause. You recognize that it's there. And so when we say, meditation, stillness, mindfulness, it's not about stopping the thoughts. It's about cultivating the pause in between your thoughts. So this awareness really shifts a lot, right? Also sort of like it really is tied into the awareness that you are not your thoughts. So realizing this, that when you can learn to cultivate the pause between life happening to you and how you react, then you are in your power. Otherwise, it's the nervous system running the show. And that's when we start to feel out of control, when we start to feel really drained and overwhelmed, is that we are reacting to life. So number one shift, really focus and learn to pause before reacting. And some of the ways that you can do to help, some ways that can help you to do this is, again, to spend time in stillness. And we need to cultivate this stillness too, because again, there's so much noise around us. So the more you can be in stillness, in quiet, in silence, the more you start to recognize what's going on in your body, the more you connect with the pause, because the pause in between your thoughts is silence. And so in cultivating that stillness and cultivating that silence, you now are breathing life into that pause. The other thing is to just, again, pay attention, be aware, notice when you're reacting, stop and ask yourself, is this how I want to show up? Maybe how do I want to show up? So we can't always stop the initial reaction from happening, because oftentimes the initial reaction that we have is sort of nervous system based. And especially sort of in the beginning, you may be really reacting, someone says something and your initial reaction is to just like be very defensive and be like, how dare you say that? Or, it can happen in so many different ways in your life, right? So the initial reaction may feel like it's out of your control, but the moment you recognize, okay, I just reacted to the circumstance and now I have the power to actually choose how I'm going to respond moving forward. So even though maybe your initial reaction is not exactly the way in which you wanted to respond, you always have an opportunity to take a step back, take a deep breath and be like, okay, all right, I had my moment here. Maybe I lost my patience, or I got really upset or angry. I felt hurt. So many different emotions can show up in the moment, but then you have an opportunity to be like, okay, how am I going to choose to respond? So that is such a big way of staying grounded and being more in your power, being more intentional, choosing ease. So that would be your shift number one. Shift number two is learning to let go. And I'd say that this is a mindset shift that can be very difficult. It's been one of the hardest, I know, for me to practice, but also one of the most transformative. Letting go, again, it's not about giving up. It's just about releasing, again, what you can't control, so that you can create space for more peace, for more clarity, for more growth, so you can create space for more of what you actually want in your life. It is so easy to hold on to so many different things. Frustration, resentment towards someone, trying to control outcomes because, that's just what we do in order to feel safe. But the truth is that holding on to anger, holding on to resentment, holding on to control doesn't really hurt or doesn't do anything to the other person. It doesn't fix the situation. All it does is actually harm you. So part of letting go, there's always the awareness piece, but it's like, okay, is there anything here in this moment that I can actually control? And am I holding on to something here that I can't even change, that there's nothing to do about it? And if the answer is yes, then it's probably time to let that go. Sometimes we feel hurt and maybe you're holding on to the hurt, but when you ask yourself if there's something I can do, maybe there is a conversation that you can have. Maybe there is something that, you can share, you can do in order to help to release that anger, to feel, better about it. But most of the time, there is an opportunity to just let it go. And it's not easy because we are wired to be right and we want to prove our point. And so this person did something, and so I'm going to hold on to that anger. I'm going to hold on to that resentment. But again, all we're doing is harming ourselves. And so really being aware of when you can let go. And that comes with, practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the greatest acts of love that we can do. It's one of the most challenging acts of love that we can do as well. But when we can be in a space of recognizing that forgiveness is not for the other person, it's actually for yourself. It's for your own peace. Is there an opportunity to choose love in this moment? That is how we forgive. Again, it's not the forget piece, but it's really just opening yourself up to allow for the emotions to move through so that you're not holding on to emotions. When you hold on to hurt, to resentment, to fear, to all of those emotions, over time, we create blocks. We create stagnant energy within ourselves. And so by practicing forgiveness, we're allowing for that energy to flow. There's also tools that you can use for releasing. If you really are feeling stuck in certain emotions, journaling, writing about them can help to sort of open up again that flow. Meditations, visualizations, where you can even, one of my favorite meditations is a loving kindness meditation. And that is such a beautiful opportunity to send love to someone else, and to send love to someone that maybe you don't feel like sending love to, but in doing that you sort of see them just as a human like you are. And maybe you can't send love to them, but you can send love to the connection between you and them, because that energetic connection between you and the person or the situation that has caused you some hurt is what you are connected to. And so if you can't quite send love to the person or the situation, see if you can send love to that connection, so that you can, again, just allow for love, for energy to flow. So when we can learn to let go, then we are creating a space for new energy, new opportunities, a new sense of freedom, a new sense of peace. Mindset shift number 3 is to be intentional with the energy that you allow into your life. That looks like so many different things, different practices and boundaries. One of the biggest decisions I know that I've made to protect my energy is to stop watching the news. And at first I remember feeling guilty about it, but I had just noticed how much it impacted my energy and my emotional state. The news was there. My husband is a big news watcher. He loves to watch the news. Not as much now, actually. I have to say that he's also sort of taking on the same philosophy as me. But it used to be on, and I didn't even know why, but then I would just feel so much angst within me, because I am someone who just absorbs all of the energy around. And something tells me, if you're listening to this podcast, Spiritually Wired podcast, that you're probably very similar in that way. And so by just having and watching the news, we're allowing for that energy into our field. So notice when, where in your life that you are taking on energy that does not serve you. I actually dedicated a whole episode to protecting your energy and setting boundaries. So I'm going to link that episode in the show notes for you. But it really comes down to protecting what you allow into your life. And it's important to recognize that if you are not preventing it from coming into your life, it means that you are allowing it into your life. So that's sort of like the hard truth of it. That can look like, again, we talked about media. So everything that you consume on social media, the books that you read, the shows that you watch. It also means as well your own self-talk, the words that you choose to speak to yourself with. The words that you choose to speak to others. So really being mindful about what you allow into your life. It actually even goes to food and to everything around you. So just be intentional with that, because when you are very protective of what you allow in, then you are able to really nurture what feels good. You know, you can bring awareness to, okay, how is it that I want to feel? But then if you're allowing in all sorts of like negative energy, then it's really sort of counteracts all of the positivity that you're nurturing within yourself in some way. It can. So be aware of what you're allowing in and what you're consuming, because it really does have an impact on your mindset. Shift number 4, prioritizing the importance of regulating your nervous system. I have to say that this has been so key. Understanding my body's physical response to stress was a game changer. We tend to think of stress as being a mind thing, but it's a full physical experience. It's a chemical reaction that you are having. Your body is designed to protect you, and it's designed to keep you alive, right? It can't tell the difference between actual threats to your life and perceived threats to your life. So what happens in this day and age, right? Your body can't tell the difference between you're actually outside and you're in a position where, you know, you're about to get into a fight and now your body needs to protect itself, or your nervous system needs to be activated so that you have a release of endorphins and all of the chemicals that you need in order to protect you. What's happening now is that we are constantly living in a environment where there's all sorts of perceived threats. Someone says something to you or posts a comment on social media, and that feels threatening to your existence, right? Your body sees it as being threatening to its existence. You have an argument with your spouse, you know, something's happening in your children's lives. You have, there's so many different things that can happen throughout the day that your body can perceive as a threat. And so easily our nervous system is just constantly activated, constantly in a state of fight or flight mode. So when we can really start to pay attention to how our body reacts to stress, then we have an opportunity to be like, okay, your body is just doing its job. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it needs to protect you because it's perceiving that there's a threat. Now, shift number 1, which is learning to cultivate the pause, helps over time. We're actually building resilience with our nervous system so that we begin to be less reactive. But let's just assume that we are, our nervous system is triggered. Our body also has the capacity, the ability to come back into a regulated state. So when we bring awareness to our physical sensations in our body, how we experience stress, a activated nervous system, then we have the opportunity to now incorporate practices that will help us come back into a more regulated state of being. And that is why regulating your nervous system is so important. It's like you recognize when you're activated, and then you're like, okay, now from this place, what can I do in order to regulate my nervous system? And again, keeping in mind that it's a full body experience. So your breath work is the quickest access to a regulated nervous system. So in those moments is where you take a step back, you push pause, you take some deep breaths, by breathing deeper, you're telling your body that I'm actually safe now. It's okay to relax. This is not a threat. My existence, my survival is not threatened in this moment. It's okay for you to relax. So you're using now your breath as a way to tell your body that you're safe. Grounding yourself, right? Going outside, gazing at the sun is also another way to actually tell your body that you are safe. Meditation, yes, but meditation I find is helpful as like a daily practice to cultivate the pause. But in the moments where you're activated, it can be a little bit challenging. But for me, what I like to do is actually, I place my left hand on my heart, I place my right hand on my belly, and I really connect here. I take some deep breaths. You can try it right now if you're not driving, and just breathing in and send the breath into your chest, send the breath into your belly. You can do it right now, just a few deep breaths, allowing for your nervous system to calm down. So when we bring awareness and you really prioritize regulating your nervous system, it is such a game changer. Once again, so many of the physical ailments that we are going through is all starts with stress in our bodies. And so the more we can regulate our stress levels, the more we have an opportunity to really optimize our health as well. Now, there's so much we can do, and I do want to dedicate an entire episode to regulating your nervous system, because we could go really deep right now into this. The fifth shift, and this is something that, I was like, do I even add it to this episode? Only because I feel like sometimes it feels oversaid, but it is to practice gratitude. And I'm not sure that I could have an episode on the most important mindset shifts to prioritize without speaking of gratitude. You cannot be in a state of gratitude and negativity at the same time. Gratitude shifts your energy, and it helps you to focus on possibilities, on abundance, on the blessings that you have. And there's so much research, positive psychology research showing how gratitude actually improves your emotional resilience, your health, your relationships. Now, what I found when it comes to gratitude, and I remember, obviously this is something that we've been hearing about for years, and I would write my gratitude, but I would do it more, I wasn't really connected to it. It was almost like my to-do list. So, okay, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for this, blah, blah, blah. I would list it out, and then it was like, okay, I can check that off. I did my gratitude. The key thing about gratitude is feeling the gratitude. So I have a morning practice that focuses on really clearing my energy, grounding myself, and then I do shift into a space of possibilities, scripting what it is that I want to invite into my life. I did another episode on this, so I'm going to link that episode as well. However, when I am writing the gratitude piece, it's about feeling gratitude. And one of the things that really helps is to keep asking yourself why. So I'm grateful for my health. Why? Well, I'm grateful that I have the energy to be able to do what I love, to be able to hug the people that I love. I'm grateful that I have another day to work towards my dreams. Why, right? So you want to, by asking why, you're actually going deeper as to how gratitude is actually elevating and changing your life. So really focus on the feeling of gratitude and lock in moments. Pause to really appreciate those moments of joy, because we focus on the big things that happen in life, but it really is an accumulation of small moments of joy. When you're just walking and then you see, you notice a bird, and you see that bird, and for some reason you just feel called to stop. And now the problem is that we're always going to our phone to take a photo, and even though we think we're capturing it, we're not really, because we're pulling ourselves out of the moment in order to try to capture it. I'm talking about you see something, you hear something, you're with someone, It's like lock it in, anchor this feeling. In NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, one of the techniques is anchoring, and it's like you can put like, let's say your little finger and your thumb together, and you anchor in a feeling. And so sometimes I'll just like anchor in a moment, like really be in the state of gratitude and have the experience. That is full presence. You're not anticipating what's going to happen next. You're not thinking about what just happened. You are fully taking in the beauty, the awe. And awe is such a powerful word when it comes to gratitude, because ultimately that's what it is. It's like there is awe in this moment. And the awe is in that unique way in which the sun is hitting the cup of coffee that you have. It's in the unique way in which someone smiles at you, when you're walking, and maybe you were in your head and someone just gives you a look that just reminds you of the kindness in people. So locking in and really appreciating the awe in the everyday moments. Another way to practice gratitude when we feel like really maybe stuck a little bit is shifting, challenges into like, what can I learn from this? And is there an opportunity to be grateful for the lesson that I'm experiencing now? Maybe it's not right when it's happening. Maybe it has to happen later, but really learning to shift challenging moments into moments of learning, finding the lessons in them. So these are some of the mindset shifts that I found to be really helpful, right? Learning to cultivate the pause so that you can be less reactive and more responsive, more intentional. Learning to let go of what doesn't serve you, of, the resentment or anything it is that you are trying to control, to change, to fix. Letting it go, allowing yourself the gift of peace in the moment, regulating your nervous system, really prioritizing your nervous system, learning how to shift, to be very intentional by activating your regulated state, your parasympathetic nervous state, protecting your energy, protecting the energy that you allow in, what you allow into your life, what you consume, what you allow to take space in your life, and then practicing gratitude, seeing the awe, seeing the beauty in moments, anchoring yourself in those small moments of gratitude. Really those are so simple, yet they truly can be life-changing. So as we move into this new year, I really just encourage you to bring awareness. And maybe there's one of these that you just want to choose right now and just focus on one shift that you can prioritize this year and just see how it can transform your life in small ways. And then those small changes over time do become bigger changes. I am so grateful to you. Thank you for listening. And as always, I want to remind you that you are spiritually wired for love, for peace, and for abundance. So until next time, I'm sending you lots of love, and make sure to keep shining your light. We need your light. Thank you for listening to Spiritually Wired. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow and leave a review. It really makes a big difference for the podcast. And if you're ready to dive deeper and join a soul-led community, come be a part of the Spiritually Wired membership. With weekly life lessons and a rich library of recorded classes, it's designed to support you every step of the way on your spiritual journey. We currently have a special offer where you can receive your first month for half the price. You can find a link in the show notes or come check it out at reneewalkerwellness.com. Until next time, remember to take some deep breaths. Remember that you are spiritually wired.